All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the In the Case INSEAD webinar series with the support of Accenture. Today, we're going to talk about a great case I co-wrote with one of my colleagues here on Balenciaga in the Metaverse. And when luxury meets gaming, we have four panelists, Marta, Tommaso, myself, and Diana, who is going to moderate the discussion. The way we're going to do it, we're going to start with a presentation by Tommaso, and then we will have a panel discussion. This is one of the INSEAD cases that was published recently. We have about 70 to 80 per year. And we would like you to visit our website and see our fantastic library of about 2,000 cases. Now, I would like Tommaso to talk about his view on the metaverse. Tommaso from Awesome Ventures, also the author of a great book, Navigating the Metaverse. Tommaso, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where obviously you guys are tuning in from. Thank you so much for taking the time, INSEAD team. Thank you so much for having me and talk about this so very intriguing topic of the metaverse and the opportunities that we definitely all have. My name is Tommaso di Bartolo. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm in tech since 1998, 4 startups and 2 exit. I'm a 2 times author. Thank you so much, Frederic, to mention the most recent book called Navigating the Metaverse, a guide to limitless possibilities in Web3, which I'm co-authoring with Kathy Atkill and Dirk Glut, one of the more pulsing metaverses co-founder out there, available on Amazon, on Barnes & Nobles. I'm faculty at UC Berkeley, where I teach entrepreneurship focused on Metaverse and Web3. And last but not least, I'm part of Awesome Ventures, where I invest into startups in the space of Web3. But now let's enough about Tommaso. Let's talk about the metaverse. And the metaverse, why now? We are in a very intriguing time. A time that is basically a crossroad between the massive behavioral changes of the human being, the shift of behavioral changes, and the game-changing technology advancement. And if we combine those two episodes, these are the response to the needs of the next generation. And well, what are the needs, Tommaso? We have been asking for transparency and traceability, for no central authority, for open systems, for real-time data, and permissionless systems, right? And in response, the innovators, entrepreneurs, VC community have provided us with blockchain. And blockchain led to crypto led to non-fungible tokens, and basically the metaverse was born. And the metaverse itself, it's also based on advancement, not just so far advancement, what we are seeing in the near future, such as faster chips, quantum computing, edge computing, 5Gs, and obviously augmented and virtual reality. And the convergence of behavioral shift with the technology advancing, happening at the right time, at the right place, created a match made in heaven. Or actually, we might even say a match made in the metaverse. Well, metaverse? Tommaso, what is actually the metaverse? Well, let me start out by clarifying early misconception actually here about what the metaverse actually is not. And I want to break it down in 6 things what the metaverse isn't. So, number 1, what the metaverse is not. Metaverse is not a game, but it's based on gamified mechanics and valuable reward system. And we'll see in a couple of examples in a second. Secondly, a metaverse is not transactional NFT drops, but it relies actually upon a sustainable economy which actually provides utility to non-fungible tokens. Well, Metaverse is not a VR headset, but it's a platform agnostic experience for mobile, web, and obviously VR and augmented reality. Number 4 of what it's not, it is not Meta. Well, like Google is not the internet. Number 5 and second last, the metaverse is not a trend, but a $2 trillion opportunity for any industry. And last but not least, the metaverse is not virtual only, but it's phygital. It's the convergence between the physical and the digital world. Back to the main question, well, Tommaso, what is it? Well, if I were to define the metaverse in now mid-22, because things change and we ripen, right? I would say that the metaverse is not a status of being or a not being, right? But the metaverse is not a thing. It's not a game as we saw, right? So the metaverse provides something to somebody. Therefore, the question I like to reflect upon is, what does the metaverse, and not what is the metaverse? So what does the metaverse, Tommaso? Well, from a consumer perspective, it provides an immersive experience with a self-sustaining, community-driven economy at its center. And if I filter the marketing lingo here, three things: what it does and what it provides. For the consumer, it provides experience, community, and economy. Well, Tommaso, if we switch perspective from an industry, well, from a brand industry perspective, it's a next-gen engagement experience that empowers brands to make consumer part of the commerce process instead of being sold a product. Again, filter here the lingo, so it's a next-gen engagement commerce, right? And where once companies had the need to publish a website back in Web 1, in order to satisfy us, the consumer, searching for information and offerings in the web by inviting us visit our website, www, right? It advanced into having social media presences for all of us, instead of searching to receive offering and information by saying, follow us on, and the various social media. And then it basically transformed into the metaverse. And from the year 2021 onwards, where brands are starting having an immersive presence in the metaverse, a gamified experience that allows us, user, consumer, to own things and ultimately being invited to an experience from a brand where they say, experience us on the various metaverses. So, Tommaso, experiences and ownership in the metaverse, how does that work? Well, in a most recent article that I wrote here in mid-April, I basically divided seven of the most, or assessed seven of the most, I call it mature metaverses. Please feel free to take a look at that. And based on the time today, I want to give you just two flavors, just two here sneak previews on what maturity, what utility means in the metaverse. Let me introduce you here to Upland, who brought actually a couple of months ago football into the metaverse. So what's Upland? Upland is one of the pulsing metaverses out there, a Web3 metaverse with over 3 million non-fungible tokens sold, roughly half a million monthly active user. And Upland is based on three pillars. From left to right, please follow me here on the line of reasoning. On one hand, what metaverse type is Upland? Well, Upland is mirroring planet Earth, meaning imagine Google Maps or Waze, but on a Web3/blockchain environment. On this blockchain environment, on these maps, you have non-fungible token. That's pillar number 2. And those non-fungible token, they represent basically the football, like the jerseys that you're seeing here, right? And then those non-fungible token, they are placed intelligently and thoughtfully throughout the map. And when I say intelligently and thoughtfully, I like also to say and replace the word with utility. And what we have learned here, and by assessing it, right, that the utility for Upland has 3 main pillars to add utility to the non-fungible token. It's based on gamification, geolocation, and contextuality. Tommaso, what means gamification and gamified, right? It means here in the realm of Upland's metaverse that you have in-app or in-DApp, decentralized application environment, retention and engagement mechanics built in order for the user to be motivated to come back. Secondly, geolocation. Again, here it's about the football. So imagine that you have basically the football finale, the football Super Bowl in LA. And I'm talking about the LA in the digital world, so on the map, right, where you are invited to go to this digital location, which is Los Angeles on the map, right, and then there to meet with like-minded at the stadium. And the reason why you do it is because it has contextuality. So once you get there, you basically are offered, based on this event, the Super Bowl, okay, and football Super Bowl, right, you are offered here basically a portfolio that is customized just for this event, right? So that increases the urge and the want for you to basically purchase this non-fungible token, right? And once you have it, you have here ownership. You have it in your wallet, which basically allows you in specifically Upland to swap, to trade, and basically to sell it either for USD or for the in-app currency. Now, this was about the sports industry. Let me show you here how Sandbox, also one of the very pulsing metaverses out there, maybe one of the more visible out there, right? How they brought music into the industry. And actually, I would like to here play a very short video. Maybe you guys have already seen it or not, but how they brought Snoop Dogg into the metaverse. Okay, just to give a flavor of music in the metaverse. And I like to assess those use cases, and I break it down always in these three pillars. First, what is the metaverse type? Here you see by its Sandbox, unlike what you saw in Upland that was mirroring planet Earth, here you see you more a fantasy world, right? Now I call it more a cubicle land on the left side. So for you guys that are thinking of metaverse, think of what's the metaverse type. Then you have the non-fungible tokens that are very much brand oriented. And then you have the utility, which is fundamental. And on the Sandbox case, you have user-generated content and co-creation. End users as well as brand can co-create. You have event-centric approaches, so that as you saw here in the video. And you have also, as always, the gamification, which leads to retention and engagement mechanics. Well, Tommaso, how to start? This is maybe the last section here before we go into the panel discussion. How to start in the metaverse if we are thinking of the metaverse? Well, think for those who are have been long enough around, right? In the late 90s, during the .com, major brands had actually lost their domain names to early adopters as they were not understanding the brands and the companies, like the fundamental importance of the domain itself. And we are in a similar situation, ladies and gentlemen, out here, right? So what is today's domain? What previously and still in Web 2, the URL was basically of main importance, right? In Web 3, it's all about property and ownership, meaning how to start, Tommaso? Well, search and see what metaverse fits best to your brand and start owning land, which is reflection of the URL. The only difference in the URL in Web 2, you have a two-dimensional information landing page, right? And in the Web3, you have an immersive experience. And we have here a four-step value ladder that I designed in order for you to say, what's the big picture? Where can I go if I join the metaverse, right? And where do I start? Step number one, own land. Search basically the right metaverses for you that match your brand and secure your land. Step number two, open up for commerce, meaning start dropping non-fungible token and don't make it just transactional around your community. Step number three, have an experience, build an experience where events, timing are very relevant to the target audience and make it more immersive rather than transactional. And step number four, the big picture of it, the metaverse is going towards phygital, the convergence between the physical and the digital. So basically look at your in real life products and make a connection from this in real life products into the metaverse, which then will have immersive experiences and reward systems. And the last slide here, well, Tommaso, what is your view on the metaverse? And by the way, for those who have already read the book, apologize, but that's still how I wrap up the book. For those who haven't, okay, I will here provide you kind of the highlight and the finale. Three things on how I see and where I see the metaverse going. Number one is we are going to have a reinvention of the entire educational system so that we have an immersive way of learning in the metaverse. Because of the metaverse, we have heard things like learn to earn. Secondly, because of the consequence of this immersive learning, we're going to have more workforce in the metaverse than in real life, and this will lead to number three, that the GDP, the gross domestic product, okay, meaning the goods and services, will be soon, within the next 7-8 years, less than the GMP. We'll be having more revenue, more transaction in the M stands for metaverse, by the way, the gross metaverse product. And with that, if you'd like to hear more, please feel free to follow me on the Forbes, where I write, on the podcast, or also if you would like to learn more about the metaverse, we have here a discount code. The Alma Meta, by the way, is a course for non-technical professionals who seek to unlock Web3 business opportunities. I've been asked to take the courses that I do at UC Berkeley, beyond UC Berkeley, and that's a course here. If you type in INSEAD, you have a discount code, right? And for those who would like to have access to the books and the slides, feel free to scan this code. And yeah, thank you so much for participation.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. It was great. And I really like what you said about the educational system, and certainly something we see at INSEAD as well. I mean, how we're going to enter the metaverse, and we already started with various VR initiatives. Thank you so much. Time for us now to move to the panel discussion, which is going to be moderated by Diana, and we have Marta as well with us, and Tommaso and I are staying as well.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Tommaso, for the presentation. Today's panel, we're going to zoom straight into the case study about Balenciaga and the metaverse. So, Prof, I'm going to start off with a question to you because you wrote the case. Tell us the story about Balenciaga. What motivated them to go into metaverse, and what has that changed for Balenciaga?
Yeah, so I mean, first I have to say Balenciaga is a fascinating brand in itself, right? So there is that, and was founded in 1919. By one of the greatest couturier around in Spain. Now, obviously, based in Paris, despite its Spanish roots. And in 2015, we have a new designer joining, like Demna, and then he's been reinventing the fashion industry for the last 7 years, twice a year, I would like to say. And that brand itself was fascinating. And in fact, we had the idea to write a case about the brand. And then when we started, they entered the metaverse, right? So we have to adapt, right? We have to see, because they're going so fast, so we had to play catch up there. And we started looking at the strategy. And I think what we explain in the case and what we're trying to show is that they're trying to address three major challenges that are absolutely key in the fashion industry. So the first one is there is a major crisis in creativity in fashion, and I would say in the creative industries in general. Okay, you have the 80s, they come back twice a year, and then the 70s, and then the 50s, and so on. And the colors, we know them all, and the fabrics, and everything. So there is this challenge, right? How do we deal with this major crisis in creativity? And the second one was CSR, corporate social responsibility. Fashion has a very deep impact on the environment, very bad, very negative, and something needs to be done, right, around sustainability. And the third one is the emergence of a new generation, Gen Z. We're not even talking about millennials anymore, right? But Gen Z, right? And the question, new generation that knows new technologies very well. And how do luxury brands, luxury brands are perceived to be exclusive, old-fashioned, and Gen Z wants inclusiveness, something new, right? And we believe that entering the metaverse, and in fact, for Balenciaga, it was through gaming. Remember what Tommaso was saying. Gaming is just one part, right? And 2020, they have this game, and then they have this collaboration. They have this collaboration with Fortnite, and then it's like they become #1 in the list ranking, right? They've been always at the top, but now they're really stable there, which is amazing. So creativity crisis in the metaverse, you can do crazy stuff. So just check the Age of Tomorrow, the game that Balenciaga created. Very amazingly creative. 2, you can talk to Gen Z. And 3, because it's on the metaverse, you don't use resources, to create your collections. You don't destroy the environment. And I would say, if fashion wants to stay around and survive, it's hard for me to see them stay in the real world forever, right? So we all have to move to the metaverse. And I will conclude by saying, so Balenciaga opened this new age. I mean, they were not the first ones to collaborate with gaming and so on, but it's a new paradigm, right? It's a new, I think Vogue, if I'm not mistaken, called it a quantum leap in the industry. And for us, it was fascinating to see how they're reinventing the industry. And even like recently, they decided to go back to haute couture, right? Because one of the challenges is, if you go into gaming and metaverse, do you lose track of reality? And they're trying also to solve that. And that's why we have to write a new case on Balenciaga every six months, I believe, because they come up with new stuff. So perhaps I should stop there. But that's I hope you can feel the passion and how amazing this brand is actually.
Fascinating, Professor. And you touched on, some very, very key pillars, each of which is a topic. But let's just dive into creativity for a moment. Marta, I like fashion too because, it represents identity. It represents creativity. Can you share with us, what does Metaverse do, to fashion? Is it creating more dimensions for artists to express their creativity? And what are some of the successful use cases you have seen with digital assets in the Metaverse? And what didn't work so well?
Well, for the moment, I would say that we are still creating the Metaverse. It's a beta testing version. I don't see it's ready yet. There are different events happening in metaverses. Metaverse, it is not a game, but it's definitely coming from games, first of all. So there is more use cases for the moment, fashion collaborating with games and the gaming industry, because this market is really huge. The gaming, for the moment, is the best platform to connect with the Gen Z. And the same as social networks, they are super heavy gamified. So you can think about Metaverse as a next step, it's like always on digital experience. And so think about also, not repeating Tommaso, but, think about that, how you can imagine, you can shop, you can socialize, train, play games, take classes, educate yourself, attend meetings, events, and have different cultural experiences and many, many more. And of course, you need to be dressed somehow, right? So what can brand do? There is really loads. I think, use case nowadays, every 6 months, it's really rare. You should do probably every month, because there is so much happening in the space. It's just crazy. Everyone is trying to jump on the wagon. However, when I went to the fashion conference, it was about innovation, but brands are still thinking about, we're not going to wear only physical clothes. We need to have physical clothes, not only digital clothes. We still need physical clothes. So there is still hope that we have physical lives, go outside, meet people in real life as well, and not only be in the metaverse and virtual worlds. So, think about it for youngsters, for Gen Z, this is the places when they're meeting. So it's more important how their avatars are dressed currently. And they don't really care what they're going on the playground, because they don't want to go to the playground anymore. It's just the most interesting socializing time for them is in front of the screen. Still, it might be a headset later. There will be new technology coming soon. Augmented reality. It's very interesting. So yes, you can think about Metaverse as an evolution of e-commerce. So for example, the brands that don't want straight away to go to Metaverse or Web 2.5, like some people are saying, just in the middle, they are not ready to spend so much money to do a great experience in Metaverse. So maybe they can start to creating digital samples and to design in 3D and getting slowly ready. Then those items can be like a digital twin of the physical garment. So that's why is this digital clothes, and so you can have different use cases, and you can use those cases in the virtual showrooms that you will have in the metaverse once you are ready, right? So it's very interesting, because the luxury brands, of course, they are very aspirational, and the others will follow. But the small brands are thinking, do we have to be there at the moment? Can we afford this? And is it really need? But when I'm talking with the people that are not super tech forward, they still have time. They have time to learn, to educate, to think what is the most important and best for them, what is currently their target market. Because if they don't reach to Gen Z, they don't necessarily need to spend money at the moment, but they could start. They could start with all the digital designs, because that's what's going to be, and it's also creating the sustainability in the longer term, especially nowadays. What else I'm thinking? There is amazing experiences already of virtual showrooms that brands are collaborating with, and then engaging and putting game mechanics, of course, into the platforms. And that's very easy to reach to different target audience. And that's very easy as well to get a lot of data about the potential consumers, and new consumers. However, I really would like to highlight, that a lot of games are very addictive. And we're learning a lot about, neuromarketing and how it can manipulate clients and players and users of the different platforms. And many designers now are not thinking too much and too heavily about what kind of effect it have in the longer term. Because think about social networks. So many people are addicted. There is so many problems with youngsters, and also the rise of suicides. That's the effect of the social network about the narcissist. It's what kind of life people are presenting, that it's not necessarily real life, that is really glorified life. So there is a lot of discussion as well about the avatars, what kind of avatars we're gonna have, say how we gonna present ourselves. From one side, it's amazing because we can liquidate all the barriers that some people might have in their physical life. But is it always good? Will it create some more problem as well if we're gonna change completely our identity? There's already so many trolls as well in the virtual spaces that they can be very different person in the real life. So we really should think about all this stuff, before just thinking about creating digital fashion, because it's really something that should be in core of creating metaverse. And about digital fashion, there is, of course, so many use cases now, and many brands are thinking about digital only. Brands are thinking about dressing the avatars, as a marketing purpose. But there's a lot of other possibilities and utilities for this, for the longer term.
Wow, Marta. Well, you've given at least 10 additional ideas on top of what Prof has shared with us, and I
could keep going, but I think
exactly. And I just want to quickly address, because Lena in the audience, she's actually raised two questions, which Marta, you have actually addressed. So there's a question: do you believe people will stop buying clothes? Because fashion is an industry that's very touch and feel, and I think you touched on that we're actually looking at a digital business use case, and also what is it that can make the metaverse in a big and scalable way. And you also touched on the point that, think about it as e-commerce 2.5, and, there are many different use cases, and to sort of like echo what Tommaso has earlier said, it is really limitless. So let me just do a slightly deeper dive into consumer behavior, because, it's a very nice segue. If we recall earlier in Tommaso's presentation, you've also referred to community-based consumption behavior. So let's go into a slightly deeper dive into, consumer behavior. We talked about Gen Z, and in the case study, we also talked about Gen Alpha, right? So, what is it that is drawing the millennials, the Gen Zs, and the Gen Alpha into Metaverse? What is it that they are looking for in the immersive experience? And I'd like to invite all panelists to join in, but perhaps we could start off with Tommaso.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diana. This is an awesome question. And I apologize here, the internet in Silicon Valley, we are kind of contributing towards the metaverse, but we have weak internet. So I apologize. I hope it's stable now. behavioral shift is fundamental, not just at generation Gen Z and Gen Alpha, right? And the behavioral shifts comes really from the core of what is it that Gen Z, Gen Alpha wants, right? And I alluded a bit here, or expanded a bit in my decks, right? Transparency, visibility, right? No longer just being entertained by doing something, right? If I open TikTok, I'm being entertained. So the problem that TikTok and Instagram or any other social media is solving, right? It's boredom, right? That's basically what it does, right? So, but what we're starting realizing is by us dedicating time towards a brand that centralizes the information of us basically swiping through something is no longer sufficient, right? So the understanding of what is it that I expect from a third party, from an entity such as a TikTok, a Facebook, an Instagram, like a Snapchat or whatnot, right, is no longer I want to be entertained. I would like to co-create. I would like to contribute, and then at the same time own or co-own what I'm doing right there, right? So there is really this shift of what is it I want, and it's evolving, right? Obviously, it starts out with this younger generation because they are more keen and more tech savvy, right? And they're saying, okay, now we would like no longer just to play, right? But we would like to play, and whatever we do, we would like to have a piece of the action, right? It's similar to, the difference between renting and buying a house. If I rent, I have basically here limited interest to invest more money in my apartment or my house, right? But if I buy the house, right, the interest of increasing the assets yield and the valuation of the yield is way higher, right? So we are starting now understanding that this for the first time on earth is possible. Again, it's for the first time on earth digitally possible because blockchain is allowing us to create ownership. And because it's starting us to allow to create this ownership, we are starting understanding that we can demand more. I mean, the classic example, right, when you go back in the automotive industry 110 years ago, right, where we had all horses, everybody has heard the story, right? If you would have asked somebody, say, hey, do you want to get faster from A to B, and you don't know that a car exists, you would say, well, how about a faster horse, right? But then when you know that a car exists, you start basically demanding for a car. And the same is happening right now. We didn't know that we can own and co-create and have a piece of the action over time, right? Now we are starting basically demanding on one hand the more ownership, and this trend follows not just from a consumer perspective but also from a developer perspective, because all developers right now, and the essence of a developer is really, I would like to make things that are new, I would like to contribute with like-minded, and I would like to make an impact, right? So, and now the developers are shifting in developing more and more on Web3. So it goes hand in hand again with technology advancements, more and more developing on Web3, and then basically starting understanding more of the demand of what I want, right? And that's basically the new opportunity and challenges at the same time for industry players that basically have to deal with these new circumstances and environments.
Thank you, Tommaso. Other panelists, would you like to add on? What are your observations about that changing behavior? And with that, I also want to quickly touch on, the user experience in the metaverse space.
I can start. Okay. Look, I mean, Tommaso, you said a lot of wonderful things. I think and I was reading the questions in the Q&A. They're also awesome. A lot of things, right? I mean, we know that what brands need to, be creative, constantly be creative, and they need to engage, new generations early on, even though they cannot purchase the products, right? Especially, and that's very salient in luxury. I mean, we all know that, Fortnite players who are quite young. I mean, my son is 9, he plays Fortnite, right? I mean, Gen Alpha, I mean, they're not going to buy Balenciaga products, but, a quick anecdote. He was seeing me writing this case on Balenciaga, and he said, "Oh, I know this brand. It's on Fortnite." I mean, and for the first time in his life, he thought that was cool, right? I mean, because that gives you the power of the brand. I mean, just being there, right? And he creates this atmosphere, this halo around the brand, and they will remember. They will remember in a couple of years when they have more money and they can purchase the products. So that's the halo effect. It's well known in marketing, and they know what they're doing here in branding. That's the key. That's the key observation. Now, there was this very interesting question also. It's like, but are they going to lose the older generations, right? The other customers? And in fact, that's actually absolutely a critical question. And we know there are other brands that went through this, right? So I don't need to mention names, but they changed dramatically their designs, and then they lost the old customer base. Now, what I would like to say here is Balenciaga specifically, and I see there was this question from George, but Balenciaga specifically, I think they're very aware of this, and this is why recently they relaunched the Haute Couture collection, which is 100% rooted in tradition, heritage, and materiality. And for me, that's fascinating. So obviously, we're all going to go to the metaverse, and perhaps, in real life, we're just going to wear functional clothes, which is possible, and all the creativity will be online in the metaverse. I wouldn't want to say online, something else in the metaverse. But also perhaps all the other generations or people who want something super material, they will offer as well something. And in that sense, they will maintain this balance. And let's see how it goes, right? I mean, I trust them for being successful there, but that's how they try to solve this. And you need like a creative director, super creative to deal with that.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor. I really would love to also hear Marta's thoughts, but just to throw something out there, when we talk about the fashion houses, right, the fashion brand, it's also about the history. It's also about the story behind the brand. So what are your thoughts on that, Marta?
Well, of course, the heritage it's important, and the brands say them through that's why they're choosing the right.
Marta, we might have to give you a few seconds just to switch your microphone a little bit. But while we are switching microphone, let me just fill that in real quick. Feel free to jump in at any moment when you're ready. But the point here being that when fashion brands think about metaverse, are they thinking about it as an additional channel where they could engage with their customers? Regardless of generation, and to Prof's earlier point, not forgetting a different segment in the market, people, consumers of a different age group. Actually, there are very valid reasons why people in those segments would want to be engaged, because they want to continue, like you said, you appear cool before your son, and people of that age, they want to be engaged with their children, they want to be engaged with their grandchildren. So Marta, yeah. Yes. Okay. If you could just raise up your voice a little bit, then we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, that's right. So I was just saying that, of course, the heritage is super important. That's the quite a lot of brand value here, but that's why the metaverse, the games, are a great platform to tell the stories and to create these immersive experiences. So you can see the great, successful examples of Louis Vuitton collaborating with Riot Games and in the League of Legends, and then they were selling the digital clothes, digital skins for $10, and then selling the capsule collection in real life, of course, for different much higher price, and it was a huge success. But it's really important that the brands will collaborate with the right players as well and create the right environment that they can introduce themselves in the right way that they want to do. So yes. So this is what I wanted to add. It's really definitely heritage. It's important, but to be innovative, it's a must, because if brands won't innovate, they will just die. And same with the customers, right? If they're not gonna add the new segment market there.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you. And following from that, it's fascinating. Our audience are raising questions. The questions are coming in nonstop, and they seem to ride on the previous topic as well. We have another question here from Ajo. Does ownership and co-creation the only incentive creating this behavior shift? Social media fed the consumers with what they need for 10 plus years, and now is metaverse the evolution to feed the consumers' demand in a more engaging way. Now, Tommaso, can I invite you to address that? But can we also tap into a little bit of the business use case along that line of thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize, you see here that I had to switch to my phone. I don't know what's happening. Anyhow, businesses, businesses are basically facing now the situation into how can I start inviting how can I grow my brand younger, right? And it is an opportunity and a threat at the same time. Like every innovation cycle,
that we have seen in the past, right? Only that this innovation cycle, it demands basically, most probably also something that you touched upon and you asked in the previous question also before dropping out, which is the storyline, right? What's the story that you would like to create in the metaverse? So it is fundamental now that the business departments and organization are rethinking of what's the ideal organizational structure in order for us to live in the metaverse. I like to say, and I share this in my book, you don't play in the metaverse, you live in the metaverse. As a brand, you're going to have an ongoing campaign, an ongoing metaverse life, where you have to think in phases on how you bring basically your target audience into this immersive realm. And the immersiveness is not just physical, but also physical and digital in combination, right? And then what you want to put at the center of all this is co-creation. What is co-creation? Co-creation is you as a brand have a product A, okay, and you basically make this product A available in a digital format. And on top of this product A, you allow third parties, meaning either developers, no-code designers, or consumers, to take this digital asset, the non-fungible token, right, and co-create with that. So add on top of that or repurpose that, right? That's basically a co-creation kind of perspective. And we are seeing this in multiple platforms out there in Web3 metaverses, where you have no-code tools or SDKs/APIs, where you can basically take the existing non-fungible token and repurpose this in digital environments and add utility together with your consumer rather than selling something to the end user.
It's fantastic because, this goes straight back into the point about building that community, right? Now, we have two very interesting questions from the audience, which is the flip side of that, where you are co-creating the digital assets, where you are actually trying to allow creativity to flourish. And these two questions come from TT and also Jesse. What would integration be like if digital assets are being created across different metaverse or in blockchain created on different protocols? How would that feel element appear, when we have to actually operate across different environments?
I think that work on that trying, because those
Sorry, Marta, I'm afraid we have to trouble you to switch microphone again. So sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Prof? Yes, please go ahead.
I'm not sure what's happening either. Is that technology? So what I was saying, that this is something that's being worked on. For the moment, it's still a problem. Going back into digital fashion, it's like if we have some assets, how we can transfer them across different platforms, right? So same with cryptocurrency. Which cryptocurrency are we going to use? For it's like which will be allowed? So as I said, we're building this environment currently. So this is something to work on, and maybe it will be very exclusive one that won't really allow to move to the super strong competitors, even that it's supposed to be very open for everyone. We will see. It's a little bit a question, and it's like I think it's question that everyone is thinking about it now and being creative.
Yeah, I echo as Marta is saying, and the topic of interoperability is core, eventually one of the most fundamental to ownership, right? I envision a world, and I see a tendency and a trend in direction where we basically are going to have, let's call it the digital me, or others call it, the wallet. So it's basically you having your identity stored and owning it yourself, which means your communication, your digital currency, your tokens, your digital assets, such as the non-fungible token, and whatever else is coming. And this will become your bucket, okay, or your backpack that you start then carrying on across multiple metaverses, right? Without being friction, without having friction, so seamless, right? We are definitely not there yet, but that's definitely where the market might most potentially be going. And interoperability is still an issue, and cross-chain portability is still an issue, but this is early days. I make the comparison, it's still 1999, right? So we are still at the beginning of the big wave, right? So there are a lot of opportunities, and whomever is out there and reflecting about how you are contributing towards this world of Web3 and Metaverse, these are opportunities. Now it's your turn. Now it's your opportunity to jump in and start solving those challenges.
Yes, and just add to Tommaso, I wanted to say, you know, you might have digital identity. You will have digital identity in Metaverse. You might also have few digital identities, you know, that maybe for one group of community, one community will be very different than for another. So maybe everything will be in one wallet, but then, you know, just you can play around probably. Same like with social networks. Many of us already have different profile on different social networks, right? One is more for family, one for friends, one is business. People have different profile pictures, so that might work similarly.
Perhaps one issue I'd like to mention as well is going to be IP, and basically who owns the designs, and you know, Tommaso and Marta both mentioned this notion of co-creation, and you know, we have communities, we have ecosystems, we have people adding designs to each other and sharing stuff and so on. But the thing is going to be extremely difficult for global brands to navigate this IP landscape, because we know there are huge differences, for example, between Europe and the US. You know, designs being more protected in Europe than in the US. And that is going to go even beyond like the diversity of taste on a global stage. So I'm not sure what brands are doing these days around IP. So perhaps Marta and Tommaso, you know more about it, but I see that as a major challenge.
Yeah, this is so relevant, and I've been involved over now 2 years in digitalizing intellectual properties from automotive industry, from the fashion industry, sports, music industry, and IP is obviously has always been core to any business, because obviously it's value creation, right? But now the complexity that we are bringing into it is that the digital asset is all of a sudden forever owned by somebody else. So one time on the blockchain, it's always on the blockchain. So you as a brand might want to reflect upon it, right? And one of the best ways on how to approach is I think to really reflect in SKUs, ultimately like we do in the physical life, right? But every digital product might need to become a SKU, a version of a digital version of it, right? And then the digital version, not only is it digitally, but it's also digitally owned by third parties, right? The aspects of intellectual property and how you earn in primary market and secondary market, and eventually then cross-chain, are things that definitely need to be part of agreements, right? And there are not that many, obviously there is not that much of knowledge out there, right? So I think the collaborative mindset of you and the metaverses or the marketplaces collaborating together and saying, okay, what is the best use case? And the best use case might be, okay, there is a win, so a profit, a royalty share on the brand side. There is a royalty share on the platform side, depending on how much, by the way, platform, I mean Metaverse platform, depending on how much the Metaverse platform contributes towards your project, right? And I've been learning over the last 2.5 years that there are usually 3, let's say, instances of ripeness on how a Metaverse platform can contribute towards an IP project. One is the Metaverse comes with a simply plain vanilla infrastructure API SDK. So it's basically the minimum of requirement for a brand to be part of a platform, right? Because the brand has the effort to create the experience, right? Then there is the second layer of additional value creation, which is also creating the assets itself, which is the design and the minting of it, right? So instead of you doing that, the entire design, right, I gave you the example previously of the football team, right? Upland created 15,000 3D assets to be placed throughout the metaverse, right? So imagine you now all of a sudden designing 15,000 assets and minting them at the right time, at the right place. So you want to basically check and say, do you have minting capability and design capabilities? And the third one is, in order for you to drive the community and activate the community, which is the main platform, which is the main fundament that you need in order to get into Web3, right? You would like to have a partner, a metaverse partner that understands the value of what you are bringing and co-markets with you, right? I like the idea of co-marketing and co-branding and co-brand creations.
Mm-hmm. And just adding to that, I think, you know, this is for the moment the market is highly not regulated, and there is really a need for a lot of legislation. So all the rules are being also created by the time, because it's so new. But saying that and going back to Balenciaga decided to go into crypto market and selling into cryptocurrency. That despite what's happening in the crypto market nowadays, they said it's a long-term vision, you know, and that's why they want to approach it and get it there. But I think legislation is the answer, you know. It's for the moment it's a little bit like a free ride, you know, and the brainstorming and crazy ideas are coming, but also there is a lot of fraud, especially with NFTs, and so one have to be careful. I think one have to be really knowledgeable, you know, if they want to get into it.
I agree with you, Marta, because legislation provides certainty, and it also creates a framework to build trust so that the industry can actually grow in a slightly more orderly fashion, and people can trust in the system. Now, I do want to touch on the topic because it is something that is very close to INSEAD's heart, which is sustainability. So there's a question from Marcelo. How about Balenciaga and other top luxury brands' journey on physical products and their digital counterpart to allow sustainability and circularity and other sustainability efforts beyond just creating more digital assets? Prof, would you like to kick off?
Yeah, I will try to address it. I mean, I was reading the question. There are so many good questions that it's thank you very much. I would like to thank the audience for this. On the sustainability, I mean, obviously all luxury brands now and or fashion brands absolutely must deal with sustainability, and they have plenty of projects, and they need to make sure that people don't believe it's greenwashing or workwashing, as we call it, and they have plenty of initiatives. I would argue that by definition, the luxury industry is well positioned for several reasons. One is being that they have huge margins, so they can actually increase costs and without increasing prices necessarily to develop their CSR strategies. They also have an extra responsibility to show the way because, you know, they lead the creative charge, they have a lot of talent, and so on and so forth. By definition, the products that they create, you can keep for a long time. So in that sense, you know, you will, if you ask luxury industry professionals, they will always tell you that that actually luxury is sustainable by definition, right? So whether it's true or not, it's open for debate, but to some extent, that's actually true. I would say now the challenge here is perhaps it's not going to be enough, and even, you know, we increase the operational side of business, we recycle, we make styles that are, you know, more sustainable, and so that's perhaps less creative, but you can wear for a long time, and so on and so forth. But that's probably not enough. And, you know, thinking about the metaverse and this big transition of the world actually into this space, perhaps that's the only sustainable solution for sustainability. Now, obviously, you know, we can say, okay, but also, you know, going to the metaverse uses energy, and okay, but compared to the impact of the fashion industry now on the environment, perhaps that's the only way. But I think we need to face reality at this stage. I think the fashion industry needs to face reality and what lies ahead, which is a major challenge, even I would say an existential challenge.
I wanted to add into this. So what I'm not crazy about that metaverse and games are for the moment used mainly for marketing purpose, because there is so much more potential and possibilities. You know, there's huge potential for education around responsible consumption, sustainable consumption, but also, you know, thinking about digital labels and NFTs as well. That can be such an amazing, you know, here you can think about heritage again, you know, that can be proof of originality, right? And that can start a second-hand markets, you know, that can be created in a very different way. You know, it can be actually be adding value because you know all the history about the clothes. You can see the digital clothes, you know, what happened. That can be so much more information, and then the wearers will have more trust in buying new. So there will be no, you know, counterfeits. That's really interesting. What can be done. Also, the digital sampling that the brands that don't want to jump straight into Metaverse, they can already start thinking about it. And those samples, you know, that's also being created much more sustainable way. And of course, NFTs, there is a huge debate that it's taking so much energy, but it's being worked on. And as been said many times, we are at the beginning. So that can improve definitely. So there is a lot of potential for you know, consuming fashion in a smarter and more responsible way, and second-hand market and renting market. And actually, I don't agree that wearing something longer it's not creating, because it can be black dress, but you can wear it in so many ways, you know. And even if it's destroyed, you can upcycle. So just you need to use more imagination even. So I think, you know, the speed, the trends, the facilitating trends, this is something what is wrong. And the luxury brands shouldn't jump on the wagon here. You know, it's about quality, it's about design, it's about craftsmanship, it's about so many different things that can be translated to digital world as well. But I don't think this rush, you know, having so many drops and drips, which is I'm also not so sure about, because then we're buying under the impulse, which is not so rational. So there's huge potential. Just use your imagination here. And I hope that the brands will think about it as well, use these opportunities here.
That's right. Thank you, Marta. So the opportunities are limitless when it comes to creativity, when it comes to business use cases, but also thinking about sustainability. Now, time is always too short when we are on a very exciting topic. We have to wrap up very, very quickly. However, I would like to throw out a fun question to our fellow panelists. If you were to buy one thing in the Metaverse, and if you were to sell one thing in the Metaverse, what would that be? I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it. And then how about we go from Tommaso to Marta and then to Prof, and then I'll hand the mic over to Prof to wrap up the session. Tommaso.
Okay, so let me answer this more indirectly. I think every metaverse is representing a different environment with a different story. So I think a lot when I think of buying, you know, the digital assets, I think of contextuality, because only if I think that contextual to something, this gives me a meaning, right? And we are not buying just another digital thing, right? We want to buy something that is meaningful, right? I mean, we have been reading and hearing all about, you know, arts and the value of arts and then music, right? So I wouldn't give you now the answer directly. This is what the item that Tommaso would want to buy, or the item that Tommaso would want to sell, but more how Tommaso is thinking of when I buy something, regardless if in a marketplace or in a metaverse, I buy because of contextuality, because then I believe of the value creation of these digital assets, right? So I might not have responded directly, Diana.
What are your thoughts, Marta? All good, Tommaso.
It's very difficult to choose one. I think land would be really interesting, because then you can build quite a lot in there and use your creativity and create whatever you really would like to show to others. I think the other one, if I can choose two, there's some amazing digital art that are beautiful just per se, but I also think the ones that giving you the access to some kind of membership club, and then you can join the circle of like-minded people, and then create all the utilities. I think that's also very interesting. So I'm not sure which one exactly, but I think two of those. Maybe the land, and no, I'm not sure.
Well, that's interesting. I was about to say land because, and also I'm a big fan of this type of games, but I guess art is also great, right? I mean, we can have art with us. We can carry things with us. That's also the beauty of the metaverse, right? It follows us instead of being stuck somewhere. So those two are fantastic. Should I wrap up now, Diana, very quickly?
Yes, Professor. Thank you so much to the panelists.
Well, thank you, everyone. It was fantastic. Tommaso, Marta, Diana. So very quickly, a lot of amazing questions. I hope through the Balenciaga case, we convinced you that we are living in a unique moment in history, that there is a quantum leap, not only in fashion, but perhaps everywhere. Possibilities are endless. We don't know exactly where we're going, but it's quite exciting. We mentioned co-creation, interoperability, IP issues, community building, and perhaps the future of humankind as far as sustainability is concerned. Voilà. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. We hope we see you again for another In the Case seminar. Thank you very much.